The Croatan Indians of Sampson County, North Carolina, Their Origin and Racial Status, by George Edwin Butler. George Edwin Butler was born in rural Sampson County, North Carolina, on his father's farm. He was an American lawyer and an author of research studies and works, particularly about North Carolina. The Butler family and ancestors had lived there since the inception of the county, and they were farmers. George and his siblings were taught to admire knowledge. The state public school system was started only after the Civil War and was limited in rural areas. It is for this reason that it is not known whether Butler attended any formal school or college. However, his older brother, Marion Butler, was a graduate of the University of North Carolina, and he was later elected as United States Senator from North Carolina. The Croatan Indians of Sampson County, North Carolina, was written by George Edwin Butler, and it was composed only a year after the special Indian agent Orlando McPherson's Indians of North Carolina report appeared. It was an appeal to the state of North Carolina report to create schools for the Croatan elsewhere in North Carolina. George Edwin Butler was an active member of North Carolina's Republican Party and a trustee of the University of North Carolina who repeatedly ran for statewide elected offices without success, and begins by citing McPherson, and as a foundation for his appeal he lists and describes McPherson's sources. Butler's document could prove to be important in an evolving system of Southern racial apartheid too. During Reconstruction, the state had provided schools for white and black children. Indians would not attend the black schools since this might lead to their legal and social classification as colored. The report documents a troubled history of cultural exchange and conflict between North Carolina's native people and the European colonists who come to call it home. In statements about the fitting of certain population to coexist with European American neighbors, it reveals the racial and cultural sensibilities of white North Carolinians. The tensions between tolerance and self-interest, and the extent of their willingness to accept indigenous people as their neighbors. In May 1830, President Andrew Jackson signed into law the Indian Removal Act. It was a piece of legislation authored by committees on Indian affairs from the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. The act granted the president and his emissaries the right to exchange with any tribe or nation of Indians now residing within the limits of any new legislation. However, the Cherokee Nation did not willingly comply with Jackson's plan. The idea of removal had been debated since early as 1721, and the Cherokees had been subjected to steadily increasing pressure from self-interested settlers as well as the state and federal agents who represented them. Upon first contact with European colonists, the Cherokee Nation encompassed over 124,000 square miles, spanning much of modern-day North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama. By 1819, it had been reduced to around 17,000 square miles. The Cherokees resisted through both violent and non-violent means until 1838 to 1839. When U.S. military troops under the leadership of General Winfield Scott supervised the forces' relocation of thousands of Cherokees. More recent history reveals that efforts to rid North Carolina of its Cherokee residents were not entirely successful, due in part to a leader named Yonaguska and his close relationship with William Howland Thomas, a white merchant who had been adopted into the tribe while a boy. In 1914, the special Indian agent Orlando McPherson drafted the report on the condition and tribal rights of the Indians of Robeson County and adjoining counties of North Carolina, and it describes the history of a body mixed blood people residing chiefly in Robeson County. This group referred to variously as Croatan Indians, Cherokee Indians of Robeson County, or Hatteras Indians, and they are all allegedly descended from the lost colony at Roanoke Island. The Roanoke Island was a group of English settlers who disappeared between 1588, when Governor John White left to send reinforcements, and 1590, when he returned. Thanks for watching.